Welcome back to CM's Garage. Today we're working on a BMX mid-90s Dyno Air chrome frame. I bought this frame off of eBay a few years ago, and we put some inexpensive wheels and components on it for my son. He recently also had a very cheap, inexpensive Mongoose bike that the Mongoose Rebel, I believe, kind of like a Walmart wall goose. So he wanted to fix up that bike too. So we took the inexpensive parts that we had on this bike. So we put all those parts on that bike, which I'll go ahead and show you. So my son came to me and asked me if I could improve on his Mongoose Rebel, which I'll put a picture of. So what we did is we took the wheels and the crank and a few of the components off of the chrome dyno that we're gonna work on in this video, and we moved them onto this frame, Mongoose Rebel frame. I put some new Mongoose Pro decals on here, much cooler than the orange ones. A new laid back seat post, sick tribute throwback 1980s Mongoose. So what we're gonna do in this video now is we need to put new components on the chrome dyno right here. So it's up on the bench and ready to go. Okay, so that bike turned out pretty well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and put some new components on this bike, some new wheels. So I went ahead and got some Skyway mags, blue, for the bike. And then we have a used 1980-ish, 90-ish chrome crank, you know, just something inexpensive to put on there. And then a blue KMC frame, or chain. And we have some black tires, Pan-Eraser with the gum wall. So I think that'll look really good with the blue wheels. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So before we get working on it, we'll just take a closer look at the frame so you guys can get an idea what we're working with. So I got this frame a few years ago. It had some rust spots for sure. So I was able to take like steel wool and WD-40 and work those out and get a lot of the original chrome to come back out. I got a repop decal on eBay. This was originally a Dyno Air. I didn't go back with the Air sticker. I just left this clean. Just did a blue dyno sticker. These are some just reproduction GT style frame standers, some inexpensive brakes. We do have an original GT headset and some pretty nice brake handles. It has a repop GT style laid back seat post, Dominator seat. Okay, so we've got the races greased up. We've got the bearing greased up. So we'll go ahead and install the crank. Okay. I went ahead and put the bearing in the race on the non-sprocket side, on the opposite side, and all the hardware that goes on this opposite sprocket side is reverse thread. So left is actually to tighten. So we don't want to tighten this down too much, just enough where it feels smooth. The nut is what it will actually tighten this down. So we'll go ahead and line up this washer. You can see there's a little tab there and a keyway there. So put that in there. And then our nut on here, which is also reverse thread. Now this one we'll want to tighten down fairly well, not too much, because then it'll make the crank too tight. But yeah, so go ahead and get that tightened down. All right, so we got the crank on. It's moving smoothly. We'll go ahead to the sprocket side and clean off the grease. Okay, so next we're gonna go ahead and get the tires mounted onto the Skyway rims. All right, let's go ahead and get started on the rear. Okay, same process. Got these Bell 20-inch inner tubes. We'll get these out of the packaging. We're gonna go ahead, take our dust cap off. Put enough air in it just to give it some shape. Got our tire here. So we're gonna go ahead and work the inner tube into the tire. All right, once we got that in there, same as the front, we're gonna go ahead and line up our valve stem with the hole in the rim. At this point, we'll seat both sides of the beads and work as much of the bead in the rim without pinching the inner tube. Be very careful not to pinch the inner tube. And then, just like the front, we're gonna start on the inside here and work the tire onto the rim. Keep checking your valve stem. You want to make sure that stays straight. There we go. It's on. That's the rear wheel. Let's go ahead and put a little bit of air in it. Putting a little bit of air in it right now to make sure it's lined up. Make sure it's seated all the way around. Looks pretty good. All right, good enough for now. We'll put our dust caps back on. All right, there we go. Tires are mounted on the rims. I think this is a really cool look. I like the blue wheel with the black tire, and I've always been a huge fan of the gum wall. I think that just screams 1980s, mid 90s. Reminds me of when I was a kid and we used to ride these bikes. Okay, let's move on. Now that we've got the tire on the rim, let's go ahead and just put a little bit of air in it. Kind of pull our valve stem through. We don't have to air it up completely, just a little bit for now until we get it on the bike. Make sure everything's lined up and straight. Okay, that works for now. All right, there's our front tire. Set that aside. All right, so we are going to install the freewheel on the rear wheel. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and put the rear freewheel on. So we're gonna use this cassette sprocket tightening chain tool, because I have a removal tool, but that only works for removing. Even though it fits in these, it fits on here, it's still only able to move it to the left to remove it. When you go this direction, it just freewheels. So in order to tighten it, you need this specific cassette tool. So we'll just go ahead, I already greased it. Go ahead and thread this on. And then we'll take this tool here, if I can get it on the right direction. So you can kind of see right here how you put that on. Lining up the chains. What we need to do is go the other direction. There we go. Doesn't have to be crazy tight. Perfect. Okay. All right, so we got the cassette on our rear wheel. Okay, so we've got the bike back up on the bench. We've got our freewheel installed on the rear wheel. I went ahead and put the front wheel on. So we'll go ahead and get that tightened up. $15mm for the front bolts. We've got the front wheel good and snug. We'll go ahead and install our rear wheel. Now we're not going to tighten this one up too much yet because we have to see where our chain's going to be, and then once we get the chain fitted, then we can adjust the rear wheel back and forth. Before we do the chain, let's go ahead and get these pedals on. I've got some of these Diamondback black pedals. They're okay. The bearings are a little rough in them, but it'll work for this bike. Okay, lever pedal's installed. Let's go ahead and now get this chain fitted. Okay, so I've got the chain just loosely hanging here over the front sprocket and the rear freewheel. So I'm gonna set the wheel not about, I would say, less than half of the way forward in the rear dropout here, because I'm gonna adjust the chain by taking links out, but I wanna be able to leave a little bit of slack so when we push the wheel back, we tighten the chain and end up somewhere in the middle. So that's my goal. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna loosely kind of pull the chain. Now it's okay if there's some slack, because we'll make up for that slack when we're moving the wheel back. So I'm gonna say, okay, I would say that's perfect right there. So we've got slack, we've got the wheel about 1/4 inch forward in the rear dropout. So what I'm gonna do is I wanna remove this part. I wanna break this part of the chain. So I'm gonna mark it with a marker. Now that we've got that marked, we can pull the chain off. Okay, so we've got the chain off the bike. You can see where I made my mark. So we're going to use this chain press tool and we'll place it in here, and we're gonna screw this end, make sure it's seated, and just kind of screw that so it's tight. And now we turn this, and what that's gonna do is gonna push the pin out of here. Removing these, breaking these chains is the easy part. Putting it back together is a little bit more difficult. But if you want to use the master link, you can do that too. Unscrew that, pull this out. You'll notice the chain just comes apart, and your pin is now in here. So the pin just falls out, see? Okay, so now I've got this excess. So I will set that aside, and we're gonna go ahead. Now you cannot put this together on the bench. We have to get it up onto the bike because the chain needs to go through the frame. So don't make that mistake. Be a lot easier if you could. Okay, so now that we got the chain sized, this is kind of the tricky part. I got marker all over my frame. All right, this is the tricky part. So I think we've got it fitted right, because if I move the wheel all the way forward, we have a good amount of slack, so that's good. So we will take up the slack, like I said before, by moving the wheel back. And so let's kick this wheel all the way forward. Just tighten it down just a little bit so it doesn't move on us. Now you've got plenty of slack to work with in the chain. And what we're gonna have to do is get this pin pressed back in here. Okay, so it took me forever to get that in, but what I did is I finally took a pair of adjustable channel locks and was able to press that pin in partially. So now we'll go ahead and use the chain tool to press it in all the way. Okay, you can see how the chain tool is fitted there on the chain. Okay, so let's go ahead and crank down on this with the press. It looks like it's in most of the way. Loosen the chain tool. That link is a little tight. but that'll work for now. Okay, so now that we have the chain back together, we can adjust the rear wheel by pulling the rear wheel until we get the right amount of tension on that chain. Should be a little bit of slack. It's in the middle here, so that's in the middle of the dropout, so that's where I want it. Yeah, that's good. A little bit of wobble. And then I want to make sure that the wheel is straight in the frame also as I tighten these up. So probably better to do on the ground. All right, so we have the bike on the ground. You can see we've got the chain on after some struggling, no doubt. And we're just gonna kind of look at the rear wheel here and make sure that it is aligned straight in the frame, and I think that looks perfect. So what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and cinch down on these rear wheels some more. And the next thing we'll do is get the brakes adjusted. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and adjust the brakes. So it helps to have two people. So I have my son out here and he's holding that brake. I wanna make sure the brake handle is completely out. You've got complete pressure there. Pull down on this wire, the brake cable as much as you can, and then we'll cinch this up. All right, let go, buddy. Perfect. Nice. All right, let's go around the back and we'll do the same thing. Okay, so I might see if I can get some blue brake pads so they don't leave a black mark on these rims before we really start riding this bike. Well, there you go. The chrome dyno. Mid-90s chrome Dyno Air frame. Changed it up a little bit. Gave it more of a late 80s, early 90s look. More of a dyno comp look. I'm liking it. Well, thanks for watching another episode of CM's Garage. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the build on the chrome dyno. I also have a 1985 dyno comp that I restored about 7 years ago. If you go back in my channel, I've got a slideshow type video that shows that build. It's not in as much detail as these videos, of course, because it was near a decade ago. I'd like to do a review on that bike, just do a video and kind of show you guys and tell you about it. So if you're enjoying these, check out my channel. I've got plenty of other videos. Subscribe and give me a like. I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good one.